months. It looked like it was money. I don't know what it was. It was a flying saucer or what it was. It wasn't an airplane. It was not an airplane. It was down awfully low.
You're listening to Pursuit of the Paranormal Podcast with your hosts, Ash Ellis and Greg Tomlinson.
Hey Ash, how's it going?
Very well, still recovering from the very busy weekend.
I know.
Had.
And you had, because you were out Friday night
Yep.
at my haunted hotel in Chester. I was out Saturday night at Morton Corbett Castle, which is an English heritage site, which we can touch on again with my haunted hotel in a minute. And then Sunday night, I can't even believe what happened then.
Insane. It was insane.
We're at Priest Cottage in Leeds to investigate. And we were just, well, we took it. We were just talking with our guest offline about going old school and on our recording software and going analog and whatnot. But we went old school from a paranormal point of view on Sunday, and we went and done an old school seance right at the start of the night. And boy,
You just kicked off from the off.
Kicked off. We spent about an hour and a half doing a seance around a table, candles, crystals, 4 of us in the whole building. We're bangs, laughing, and the laughing was captured on 2 different cameras.
Yeah.
The locations camera had it captured, and our own camera, which we've now got the SD card for.
Oh, you get it. Did you find
It's been found. There's a weird story about that as well. Right. So I put the MacBook with the SD card after we'd reviewed that footage in the memory card holder reader thing and put it in my bag. We got halfway home and I said to Sarah, definitely check just to make sure that SD card's in there. Couldn't find it. I said, it's got to be there. It's got to be in the car. It's got to be in the bag. No doubt about it. We get home, we pull the bag apart, nothing there. So she messaged the girls from FX Paranormal. They went in today, couldn't find it. Then all of a sudden, it appeared out of nowhere on the sofa, apparently.
on the sofa.
And that's the message.
At yours or at
No,
FX
at Priest Cottage. It just appeared out of nowhere when they'd pulled the place apart.
Oh.
I said to Sarah, I'm sure there's no way I've lost any paranormal equipment ever since we've been going out. And this SD card with this evidence on, and then they couldn't find it. Then all of a sudden they found it.
Maybe it was the guy that was laughing that hid it. That was his joke.
Yeah.
You knew he was going to play with us. But that laugh was... We all heard it in person.
Yes, we did.
Well, at first it sounded like... Because Emma was like, that was a laugh. And we all heard it. I thought it was taps at first. Me and Sarah thought it was taps.
Yep.
And when we reviewed it on the Mac, I was like, that's someone laughing. That's like a... like a creepy serial killer laugh in the room with us.
Yep.
Mad.
And each time I listen to it, it's definitely a laugh now for me.
Yeah. So I thought it was taps, but now I'm like, it's a laugh. It's someone laughing.
And the girls at FX Paranormal have captured it on their sort of like ring camera thing, security camera, with the laugh. We've got it on our video, our infrared video. And that was the only 2 pieces of sort of digital that we were using. We went proper old school with candles and everything. And then we had mimicked voices. They were mimicking Sarah on the spirit box. Said her name in Emma's voice and then laughing and said Sarah. It was all... That was the first hour and a half.
It was mad. And we were all, like I say, there's only 4 of us in the whole building. And we were all downstairs in the hallway, and we had the massive thud from upstairs. There was a chair that had been pushed over.
Yep.
Upstairs when there's nobody.
Like a proper office chair. It was mad.
Over. So yeah, keep an eye on our TikTok for the footage and social medias coming off the laugh and other stuff that happened.
Yeah, to investigate as well, they've also posted some footage of the doll moving, although the camera wasn't on it at that point. But the commotion they caused led us to run upstairs at different moments throughout the night to see what's happening. And it all kicked off for them as well. So it was an insane night. So
On the contrary to my Friday night at my haunted hotel, where nothing happened. It was
that's mad.
dead as anything. It was so quiet. Not been for a while. Looking forward to going. Always enjoy going, but
Yep.
yeah, just nothing happened at all. It's always obviously it's paranormal stuff don't happen, which is always a bit disappointing when because you're there all night. Got there at 8 o'clock, stayed till 10 a.m. the next morning, so all night and just like nothing happening at all. But then compared to Sunday, it was just mental, like non-stop stuff happening all night. So it made up for it. It was a good weekend in the end.
And I just want to apologize again for Friday night where we invaded your paranormal investigation whilst both me and Sarah were both absolutely hammered.
Very
And
hammered.
the problem is we were doing shots, then all of a sudden we started cooking, but didn't allow ourselves the time for the shots to kick in. So we were just hammering the shots for about an hour. Then they all hit at once, and then we were on video call to you whilst you were at my haunted hotel. So apologies for that. She was throwing up the next morning. She was an absolute state. Well, I didn't recover till Sunday, so I'm glad we didn't go out till Sunday properly. But and Morton Corbett Castle, we've got to go down by Shrewsbury. Is like a 15th century ruin of an old house, and there's a legend of somebody who got ostracized from the family who came back to haunt the local area. There's bullet wound. Sarah said bullet wounds. Bullet wounds, bullet holes in the wall, and it's a crazy place. We had spirit box there. There was angry voices coming through, shouting at us, and all sorts. We heard gravel moving in front of us, and we were the only ones there. It was weird, proper weird. So a pretty good. And we watched Conjuring on Sunday. Just very quickly, we watched Conjuring to set us up on Sunday morning. We went and watched Conjuring at the cinema, and then come out of there. It's like, oh my God, we need to go old school seance. We need to just do some old school shit. Let's just get it done.
And it worked.
It worked. So yeah, really chuffed.
Anyway, our guest has been sat patiently listening to us gab about our weekend. So very excited about tonight getting to chat to our guest in person rather than over Messenger. So I'm looking forward to catching up. So our guest tonight is Andy McGrath, who is a established British paranormal researcher, folklorist, and cryptid investigator with over 25 years of experience investigating sightings and unusual locations. You may recognise him for being on TV shows such as Weird Britain, which is always seems to be on Blaze and Sky all the time. Lots of them episodes being pumped out, and author of a number of books, including Beasts of Britain and others. So are great reads, so make sure you check them out. So welcome to the podcast, Andy. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm really happy to be here with the great Greg and Ash, and I know you both by name, and I've always wanted to talk to you. We were going to talk recently at our ill-fated conference. We all didn't get to go to, and I was gutted. I was like, okay, that's it. There were so many people there. I was just waiting to meet, but we're doing it now. That's what counts.
Definitely. So I guess just to kick off, if we go back to the very start, you got a number of decades in this subject. So what was it that's kind of kicked it all off back in the early days?
I mean, the first thing was definitely cryptozoology, because as a teenager, I remember, or even younger, just being obsessed with any stories or clippings about the Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot or anything like that. And showing my age a bit, I really loved the In Search of show with Leonard Nimoy and Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, which was just amazing.
That's what got me into it as well. That's what got me into it, Arthur C. Clarke.
Same thing, exactly.
The best program.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's just like a shorthand way of telling everybody I'm staring 50 in the face. You're already there. Oh no!
No, nearly. No, I'm nearly there. I'm nearly there.
Oh, you're really? I'm next year.
I've got a year and a half to go. Yeah, nearly.
It always reminds me of that bit in Friends. Remember Friends when Joey turns 30 and he's like, "My God, we had a deal. Take the others first, not me."
We
And
don't look anywhere near that, so.
there's a lot of surgery, a lot of makeup that's gone into it. No, you're nice. I've fished it out of you, but I will keep it. Every compliment counts.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I mean that that happened, and I just kept with it. Basically, I was a musician. I was a singer for years since I was 12 years old. Actually, I was a singer. I used to do biker festivals and things. My parents used to get us gigs at biker festivals, and we used to do like Zeppelin and Sabbath and Guns N' Roses and Aerosmith and Sex Pistols, and my parents loved it. Everybody in the band, their parents thought it was horrendous what was happening to their kids, but bikers, they are lovely in this country anyway. So we got our teeth there. It was just in the background, always in the background. And years later, I came to London. I was still collecting all my bits and pieces, and I've been working in the city for I think it was about 7 or 8 years. Saved some money, 50-hour weeks, 3-hour commutes. And my wife was like, "Oh, what are we going to do with this money? Should we put a deposit down on a house, or should we like spend it doing stuff we want to do?" And we both thought sensibly, and then said, "Forget the sensible stuff. Let's just spend this money on doing something we want to do." So she went into her thing, and then she said, "Well, what are you going to do? You're going to go back into music?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm kind of done with that." And she was like, "What about this monsters thing you're always harping on about, like monsters, right?" And it's like, "Yeah, I could do that. I guess I could like try and write a series or something." And I knew somebody was in TV, and he said, "Oh, listen, somebody's just going to steal that idea. Why don't you write it into a book? And then it's a book, and they can't steal it from you." And then another American friend was like, I said, "Oh, I'll write one about Britain." And he said, "Oh, that rubbish! Like you'll never find anything more than Nessie." And I was like, "No, no, I can do it. I can find stuff." And I found so much stuff. It was unbelievable, actually, how much stuff was just kicking around, just in the cryptid factory, even. And people just started seeming to want to talk about it, and podcasts and things. And as time went on, I started trying to pitch a TV thing again with a guy called Doug Highcheck who did Monster Quest. And we got close, but nobody picked it up. I think their concern was it would have just been Monster Quest with like a British presenter, which me and Doug would disagree with that. But that's poor Doug, he got tarred with that brush, a very amazing brush, but one that it let him escape from. And then I met the Weird Britain guys, and they were starting to film this series. Something happened. I was just a guest, and at like 4 a.m, this is really halfway through the first episode, they were like, "Can you be the presenter?" And at 7, I was on Tintagel talking to their archaeologist about, King Arthur, and that's it. Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
But,
I was just going to say, like you mentioned about Britain and kind of people saying, "Oh, there's only Nessie, whatever."
yeah.
In your book, there's so many things I'd never heard of. I mean, when you kind of started doing that research, where did you sort of start looking? I guess to find like
Yeah, the
the sheer
sightings.
amount that you've got.
Well, history books first. I went further back to begin with because that's where everything seems to be. Like in the folk, I was interested in folklore, so I thought that's where you'll find everything. So when I started looking first, of course, there was sort of more ancient sightings of Nessie than just the 1930s ones, and other loch and lake monsters around the UK. That's a bit that surprised me the most. There were so many loch and lake monsters around historically. And then I heard about this Bigfoot thing, and there were a few sites, British Bigfoot organization or research organization. Adam Bird was the guy that ran that then. Back then, there was another lady, Deborah. She'd made a map and was collecting sightings. I was like, this is very interesting, So I really jumped into it. There's other things as well, like werewolf sightings, which we've always had, by the way. It's like a European phenomenon, Western European phenomenon, especially that we have these kind of werewolf sightings. And I've got an opinion on that now, what that is, or at least where some of the folklore comes from. But, which is interesting to me, even like little people, like fairies, I thought, could they, there's a bit in the book about like, it's called the little people or the hairy fairy folk. And the argument is, well, it's a great argument, but could they be like diminutive, like primates, like orang pendek is, or other things like that around the world that people saw historically and then thought were some kind of fairy or goblin or troll or something. And so it just really took me really deep into it. And I realized that in all of our genres, we all used to this, that there's a lot of landmines around in groups and culture, and I've always been like a sort of a very direct, polite, but directly sort of foot in mouth kind of guy. If there's a question to ask, I'll just ask it. And I got into lots of trouble in the early days with lots of different people for just, saying what I was thinking about something, or really asking a question out loud, which is what you're supposed to do, isn't it? Could this be that, or is it just this? And I thought, hang on a second. There's a religious undercurrent to some of this stuff. I mean, this in a sort of more of a philosophical way, but it's a belief system because people are into it. Kind of a bit more than a football team or something, a bit heavy. And of course, when people question your beliefs, that's an affront to reality. So you get a bit mad about it. And I was like, okay, there's seen some real sort of weird things here. And I went on a whole sort of like rabbit hole with that for about 2-3 years, just the psychological side, especially internationally, because sometimes our cryptids are very national in context. And when we've invaded another country, like we did with the colonies in the past, sometimes we leave that cryptid there, or at least part of it, and it's in the way that people describe the things that they see. Like as you talk about the duende all the time. So there's like this little malevolent dwarf-like creature that's in Spain and Portugal, Central and South America, and the Philippines. So it's like, oh my goodness, what have they got in common? Spanish colonialism, right? So either the Spanish they were exporting these vicious little dwarves all around the world, or there's something cultural, either in the description or in the way the folklore has permeated the consciousness, Could even be the way the terms that the people we conquered are now using to describe similar things. So there's a pass. And then, it just sent me on this wild goose chase forever. And then I kind of came back with the Weird Britain thing and thought, no, but I do want cryptids to be real. Let's have another go at trying to find some.
Yeah, it's one of those topics where the whole thing of the paranormal. Like when we first started the podcast, I came out from the ghost side, for want of a better phrase, and the paranormal side. Ash was the UFO guy. And then over the course of the last 5 years, we've spoken to people that have had these wild man Bigfoot experiences and Bigfoot hunters, for want of a better phrase. We've talked to people who go hunting cryptids in the UK. And there's this whole sort of undercurrent under the term paranormal where everybody's got their little niche, and then somebody says, like you mentioned about fairies and little people, and you just go, oh, that's a rabbit hole, and start to go down there. Do you find yourself with people coming to you and say, have you heard about this? And then you go, oh, let's go down there. Or do you research, or do people come to you?
They do come to me with those things sometimes, and I'm always open to it. I mean, Ash will know, being a big UFO guy, that the fairies and UFOs are so inextricably linked from the past to the present. You only got to look at Stack Rock near Littlehaven, Broadhaven, and the same tales of during the Welsh Triangle sort of days in the 70s. And people were talking about this orange sort of light descending into the rock. That's the same way people used to describe the fairies going into Stack Rock hundreds of years before. And it was like a fairy lair or fairy land. And we can come to many conclusions, but two primary conclusions, which is one, aliens are actually just fairies and supernatural beings, or two, extraterrestrials are what we once used to think were supernatural beings, like maybe the old angels versus aliens argument, right? Or it all just really comes down culturally, spiritually, and socially to how we classify things. It doesn't mean we're making up what we see. It just means, when you look at an old picture of a sea serpent in some medieval bestiary, it's got a fox's head and a snake's neck, and and a fish's fins and a bird's tail. And I'm sure whoever saw it didn't really describe it that way. but that's the best that the mental library could sort of come up with from what was available to to draw from to make this photo fit. Maybe that happens real time sometimes as well. Like and I give this example so many times. I apologize to anybody who's heard me say it like 100 times. When Cortez's ships came and Moctezuma's men saw them, the Aztecs, when they saw them, they described them as floating mountains. They don't like mountains at all, did they? But that's all they had really to describe that thing they saw. Oh, it's a floating mountain. Come quick! There's men floating on the mountain towards us, and yeah, that's what I think sometimes. Not that things aren't real, but that it's kind of curious how we can't escape our mold to describe what we're seeing.
That's it. I think you can only reference the stuff that you know as a way of describing things. Like we've spoken to people and they have like a screen memory where they're seeing this thing and it's so profound that their brain can't interpret exactly what they're seeing. So their actual brain makes up an image. Like people are seeing owls, or they'll see like a Mickey Mouse character or Disney character or a tree trunk or something, because that's the only thing that their mind and their brain can interpret what they're seeing as. It's just so profound for them. So it's interesting that you have to use what you can reference as a way of describing. So the mountains floating is when you just said a man floating on a mountain, I get like it's just this peaked thing, and that is like a ship, isn't it? So
It is, yeah.
and
And they didn't have ships either,
No.
the Aztecs. So it was like, well, what the hell is this?
yeah,
So that case, Native American case, and from a couple of 100 years ago in America somewhere, and they again sort of linking UFO to cryptid, and they've described, I think it was a moon coming down and three apes getting off the moon and running into the forest. So it's like, okay, the moon coming down and landing, like that's a ship. Obviously, they wouldn't have any airplanes back then, or anything like that. So they're describing it as a moon landing in like in the field or whatever, and three apes getting off the moon and running to the forest. So like, okay, so like apes potentially Bigfoot or whatever, and the moon being some sort of spaceship that obviously they haven't got a word for or
Yeah.
recognition of. Again, just different cultures, but still kind of using, like you say, the current language, I guess, to describe things
Yeah,
that
with you all
wouldn't
the
make
way.
sense
Yeah.
nowadays.
Some cultures as well have catch-all terms for like a lot of things. So, like you look, okay, let's go to like the Yeti, for example. Yeti, that's just a word for like a big animal, really, and lots of things can be Yeti in that region. And the other local tribes along, because the Himalayas is vast, have different sort of appellations for it. But sometimes they can be describing like a bear or another big creature or something they're not really certain of, but is big, like big hulking thing. That's what it means, something like that, doesn't it? Maybe I've got that wrong. But you get a lot of that in lots of cultures where there's like archaic catch-all terms for like a lot of things. And when you said like the moon coming down, I would interpret that they were saying that the thing that came down was bright, like the moon. It was just a bright thing that came down. And yeah, it's just one of these weird things. I often try to wonder now um, if I was out and I saw something having so much influence from the genre in my head now, what would I interpret it as? What would I
yeah.
see? Would I see all the stuff I talk about all the time and all the classic images that have been drawn and I've referenced all this time, or would I see what it was? I don't
Do you
know.
think though, if you were to have a sighting now, or any of us would have a sighting now of, say, a UFO or a cryptid, would we be influenced by all of this stuff that we talk about? So we might become too specific, and we're going, well, it was definitely like it's this ape-looking thing. It's 7 foot, 8 foot tall. It had big long
Yeah.
hair, because that's what our brain is conditioned to look for. And in your head, you straight away you've gone, well, that's a Yeti or a Bigfoot. So already your head has said, well, that's what I know it looks like. So back then, because they didn't have any frames of reference, maybe their sightings were more, their descriptions were more accurate, for want of a better phrase, because eyewitness testimony across history is awful. You don't necessarily remember what you've seen. You remember the last time you remembered it. And I just wonder if nowadays we're so programmed as to what, say, an alien looks like, or what a Bigfoot looks like, or what a ghost looks like, for example,
Yeah.
that we conditioned our brains to see that. So that's how we would interpret what we're seeing, if that makes
I
sense.
think it's very possible. I mean, we do end up in this situation when we're saying that no perception is valid in a way or bona fide because of our. And I got into that sort of circular argument myself for a long time. So that means nothing is bona fide because we're so heavily influenced. But people are also capable of describing something, and perhaps in this day and age when there's so much imagery available to us, it could actually be like, flicking through a police sort of photo fit crime file, in that you now have all the aspects you need to really tell what it was you actually saw. Whereas back in the medieval times, or whenever people, like I love the old bestiaries when they're drawing these things, you're like, what the hell is that? And so a drawing of a crocodile, I was like, that is not a crocodile. But, clearly somebody had described that to that person. Whoever drew it never ever saw it. That's a fact. But yeah, you'd hope now that actually we've got this great encyclopedia of paranormal knowledge covering all of all the different principles and genres that we can choose from. But then there's the bias of belief. So that's, I don't want to get tied up into this too much, but so we go on ghost hunts sometimes for Weird Britain. I don't generally go on ghost hunts. It's not something I'm interested in. And it's a weird thing because our house had so much ghostly and unpleasant activity growing up. But it was just a nuisance that would bother me when I was busy looking at my messy stuff online. We're not even online then, sort of papers and stuff. All this weird noises and sort of cups flying off the shelf. Reading my cryptid mags. Can you F off? And black shapes in the corner. I'm like, oh, is that again? When your parents went on the weekend, and I was not interested in it at all, other than from a point of irritation. Now, when we go out and we do something, it's almost like I'm completely immune to it. So we were in the Hellfire Caves, and everybody's like, I can hear steps. We can hear steps. I can hear laughter. And I'm just sitting there, and in my mind, it's like I'm in a theme park. Same with like Bodmin Jail or all great places, by the way. Not saying they don't have hauntings, but my point about it is that in some of these places, if the tens of thousands of people who go there every year are all getting activity, then for those spirits, it truly must be hell, right? Because you're never off duty. And so I'm just like, well, I've got my own beliefs about this. I'm not really worried, and I don't ever feel worried or scared by it. So it's like a disinterest that just comes on me. Everybody else does the thing, and of course for the program I'm doing my bit, but it's a weird thing. It's not I don't believe it. It's just it's never really, being an interest point. Whereas I could look at the water in Loch Ness for like 12 hours, ripples, just watching everything that's happening, in my little vantage point, in the same way as you guys would for you when you're paranormal, in some hopeful aspiration that suddenly a big neck's going to come up and, I get the camera out quick enough to capture it.
So I guess following on from that, you say you don't really have that much sort of interest in doing the ghost hunting stuff. Where do you lie with UFOs and that kind of aspect?
That I'm interested in because I think it has more of it's a physical presence. It's more of a physical presence. My point with the ghost is always like, if this is an ethereal thing, for me, this is a very personal thing. Don't kill me, ghost guys out there. It's what's the point? I want to get something I can hold on to and bring it back and, stick it in formaldehyde like the giant squid and say, there it is. Now that we know it exists, let's not fucking bother with it anymore. Just go on. So that's what happens, right? You see the Kraken in a museum now, and you're just like, oh, Kraken. No. On you go. But you are literally looking at Bigfoot or the equivalent of Nessie right there. That was a mythological creature for so many years. So with UFOs, there's the human aspect. Definitely, you look at drones and things now. We have been piloting some of these things for some time now and messing around with them. That seems very clear. There's been massive government involvement for a very long time. And for some weird reason, recently they tried to say, yeah, we are involved in it. We do know what's going on. And everybody's like, well, whatever, world's too crazy, don't care, right? It's almost like this disclosure that nobody even cared about was happening. And even UFO guys were like, well, no, the government says that. I don't really believe you. So that is a tangible thing. It could be happening. And if there are extraterrestrials, who knows why they come here? But I mean, maybe for the shits and giggles, it's a funny place. So it's a possibility. You've probably been to John's library. I know you've got a massive library of sightings. John Hansen.
Yeah.
When I looked through those folders, I was like, okay, that's a massive body of work in the sense of, just a collection of evidence. And since he was an ex-CID officer, it was done in a nice evidential way.
Yeah.
So, wow, this is folder after folder after folder of people, regardless of what they believe or of what happened to them. They can't unsee what they've seen. This is very tangible. And sometimes they've had very physical experiences that can be evidenced. And that's intriguing to me.
Yeah, that John's office, I was there for about 6 hours.
Oh, yeah.
And non-stop looking, like all four of us, me went with Abby, John and his partner, all helping.
Shirley, she's lovely.
Shirley, because we were looking for specific stuff.
Yeah.
I think probably in 6 hours between the four of us, probably looked through less than 10% of what's there.
Oh, yeah.
It's just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get enough kind of people going, I guess. So people do need to check that out. Yeah, I mean, from here, it's about nearly 3 hours.
Yeah.
Had to make it an overnight thing to go there, did a camping trip. But yeah, anybody listening, UFOs, get to John Hansen near Stratford-upon-Avon. They'll supply you with soft drinks and refreshments and stuff all day. Very nice guys.
John and Shirley will feed you on biscuits and tea and chocolates and just let you, and they're wonderful, lovely people. And it is in Ulster, sort of slightly off the beaten track. But if you go there, I mean, we've been to John's 4 or 5 times, and every time it's difficult to leave. It always seems to be when we're going to another shoot, we've got like 4 or 5 hours, and then we've got to leave. Don't let me go, holding onto the doors, because I just can't believe this treasure trove, and it's not digitized. I'm just like, we need somebody with really high functioning Asperger's to get in there and do this, and just get down to it, get that really high detailed, meticulous examination of everything in copy and file.
So all these places you've investigated, done all this filming at, is there any kind of, like, maybe your favorite or your most compelling bit of evidence or location that you've been to that you just think that if somebody can go, say someone coming from America has time to go to one place or one case, what would you do you have that one sort of, or maybe a couple of big cases?
Yeah, no, there's lots of places. So there's one problem with it. So I don't really have very good recall. So I do have photos though. So I know I've been there because I can see it on the pictures. And but the favorite place is definitely, one of the many favorite places that people can achieve really easily is Hannah Courtois Mausoleum in Old Brompton Cemetery in London. And that is it's like an Egyptian tomb, basically, this mausoleum. It's got this it's got a flat top on it, like one of these Egyptian old temples, but it's got this pyramid-like structure with big iron doors full of hieroglyphs. And then each side has like a sun made out of a porthole glass as you get in ships, with these tiny round dots of portal glass as well on either side. So all the sun streams in there during the day. The key is lost, and the guy who made it for her, Joseph Bonomi, he was an Egyptologist that built many other Egyptian sort of Egyptian-styled architectural things in Britain, such as flax waxworks and a few other places. And his grave is nearby, and on his grave there's Anubis sitting on that house, but facing the wrong way, facing towards her tomb instead of the way Anubis is supposed to be facing. And there's an ankh on it. It's really, really curious, really interesting. So this is the 19th century sort of spiritualism and esoteric, I suppose, fad that was going around at that time. Everything from somewhere else was, for the Victorian era, was somehow more spiritual, more interesting, and everybody was into it. And this lady, Hannah, who was very poor when she was born, but became very rich through marriage, had 3 daughters, and she wanted to cheat death by all accounts. And the conspiracy is that she made a portal, a time machine. And there's also another conspiracy that it is the influence for the TARDIS in Doctor Who, this place. So this graveyard is amazing. Got a load of really amazingly influential and famous people buried there, like Emily Pankhurst and other people buried there. It's full of these old mausoleums everywhere. And this one, it's right in the center. There's paths going to it in this sort of like cross shape. There's bang in the center, this huge thing, maybe about 12 feet high. Maybe it's about 10 feet around. And she's buried in there with her daughters. Or is she? Is she perhaps traveling through time as we speak? Never aging. So there's another theory as well, is that the key that's missing is also the inspiration for the sonic screwdriver from Doctor Who. I'm not a big Doctor Who fan. I quit after Tom Baker left, which is a long time ago. So in the 1980s. So, it's very, very interesting. And you can just go in there. You can walk in the cemetery. There's a little nice cafe nearby, and you can see it as well as the rest of the cemetery, which is amazing. That cemetery as well is also one of the 7 Gardens of Peace in London, amongst others, including Highgate Cemetery, which obviously has that reputation for the Highgate vampire, which, by the way, for all my study about it, I could never quite figure out why it was deemed to be a vampire at all. But there you go, this thing. So it's a really beautiful place. You can get there on a tube, and check it out.
It's cool because London's only about an hour bus from me. So, we go down Highgate on the.
Where are you?
And not in Hillgate and everything on the way into London. So I'm only in Oxford. So,
wow,
it's perfect. So Ash is up in Manchester, so I spend a lot of time up north, but I also am down south. So, I've got a lot of places in central London. I really want to go and look
you're
at.
really close.
And we love a good cemetery.
Recently, actually.
Okay, cool. It's such a cool place, Oxford.
We were going to try and do the Tolkien thing, but we couldn't get all the access to everything, so we're like, oh, never mind,
You have to, there's loads of great places. We've had some good experiences in loads of old pubs, and we go to a lot of cemeteries in Oxfordshire. So, you'll have to let me know when you're next down, and we'll
definitely come down. I used to drink at a place called the White House there years ago, slightly off the beaten track. Do you know where it is? I think it's just outside of town.
Okay. We went to the Turf Tavern. Have you ever been to the Turf Tavern?
Yes.
It's right in the centre. It's where allegedly Bill Clinton was inhaling marijuana back in the day when he studied.
Was he? In between playing saxophone. No, I have begun. You know how I remembered? Because I had to use their Wi-Fi, and I still get the emails about their deals every single day. Just used it once. So, but their food was amazing. They were really nice.
Yeah,
it was a nice place as well.
We captured, me and my girlfriend. We went down there, and we were doing like a bit of a paranormal tour of Oxford for mine and Ash's TikTok and social media, and we decided we'd do like a little parody video afterwards. And the lady in pink, my girlfriend, and her paranormal team, they all wear pink, like bright girly pink. So she was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you'll
They're
know.
twins. Yeah,
yeah.
they were going to be speaking to, I think, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
Yeah. So Sarah from To Investigate's my partner, and
Investigate. That's it.
so
Yes.
we were doing a little parody video, and we captured, like, we'd done some video and whatnot, and it wasn't until we were reviewing it the next day, after we'd put it out on social media, just like a bit of a joke thing, the lady in pink, and she was like, have you seen this? I'm like, "What?" And we're in the Turf Tavern, and she comes up from underneath to grab a glass off the table where we were drinking. And as she goes to grab the glass, the actual glass moves away from her before she grabs it. It's the weirdest video I've ever seen. So we're trying to get back to the Turf Tavern. We've been a couple of times to have a drink, but to try and investigate that more. But it's the weirdest video. It's bizarre, absolutely bizarre.
Oh,
So
it's
yeah,
amazing there.
next time you come down, yeah, we'll have to all meet up and do a
I'd
do a
love
little.
to. We were there for maybe, I think it was 2 days, and we went. We filmed in the where's the debating hall, the Oxford Union.
Yeah,
But that was for
yeah,
something else, for a friend, doing a favor for a friend of the directors who couldn't make it. So we ended up watching this debate up in the rafters, and that was interesting. And of course, went to the Tolkien pub and filmed myself
yeah,
in front of the speaker friend and then to sound like everybody does. Tourist, full on
yeah.
tourist.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but everything. But I really wanted to get into, the Bodleian and all those
Hmm.
places, and it just wasn't possible. So we were like, okay, guess we can't do this just yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
But
so
desperately wanted to do it.
yeah, we got loads of places we can go. We'll all have to meet up in Oxford because Ash comes
I'd
down
love that.
occasionally. So and
Yeah,
there's
I'd
a
love that.
load of cool places down by me as well. I'm just outside Oxford. So following on from where you mentioned about the locations and such, what would you say? What variable predicts the most solid case when people come to you? Is it like witnesses,
Yeah.
observers, duration, environmental factors? What kind of thing do you get straight away and you go, oh, this could be a good one because of X, Y?
I think, like many investigators, I love antagonistic witnesses the best. People who can't see what they've seen, but have no skin in the game, and are not suffering from a mental health crisis or episode. Because of course we're talking about very crazy things, very out there things, and that has to be one of the questions. Are you okay? Are you something going on? Is there anything, if you had a traumatic experience recently? Are you on medication? I was tentatively ask people. It doesn't exclude you from having a sighting if you are, but it would be nice to know if that's part of part of your mental health condition. If it's not, then let's talk. Anyway, on for my Interpol sort of interrogations. But I don't normally just start talking to the person. I'll talk to them a few times, just very generally and casually, and occasionally bring the story back in and see if it's the same when it comes back into the conversation once they're relaxed. And I'll normally then look for mundane details that are not necessary to the sighting. So if you had a sighting, let's say you saw a dog man, a werewolf or whatever, and it was in a forest, and as you're walking towards the forest, you notice that Mrs. Jones's porch light was out or something, and then you walked on for 10 minutes, and then you saw the werewolf. The porch light doesn't matter; it's not part of the story. It's non-essential to your sighting, but it's wrapped up into like the PTSD of your sighting. Now you can't remove that non-essential detail because it's part of the entire experience of what happened to you. So normally, now I'm telling people how to fake it for me, but generally speaking, I normally look for things like that, little tiny things that don't matter, but that you repeat every single time, basically. So that's one of the things. But also, I think it's I want to know about the person themselves. Is this something you're interested in? What kind of media do you consume? Even, are you like a massive fan of Ancient Aliens? Whatever, just something, or Most Haunted, or whatever it is, and that could that possibly be inspiring you to to have this experience. Again, it doesn't exclude you. I mean, then you guys are paranormal investigators, me too. I go out looking for things. If I find it, is it excluded because I wanted to find it? No, of course not. But yeah, is it on the brain? And you're coming from a genuine place when you're giving me a sighting. Yeah.
I think some of the people that we've interviewed, in particular me and Ash, the first time they're telling a story of what's happened to them, their account, and when you can see somebody face to face, you get, I know me and Ash, we get a sense of whether or not the person seems genuine or they believe what they're saying. Because sometimes it could just be that they believe that they've had this experience, whether or not they have, for whatever reason, like the mental health issues or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can generally tell fairly quickly if that person believes what they're saying or they're trying to keep to a narrative that they believe they should be. So I do find that this kind of conversation allows us to have those kind of moments where you go, actually, you seem genuine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that gut instinct of, I'm not sure about you, or something you're saying doesn't quite fit right, generally, and a lot of the time, that can be a reason because you've got this weird feeling it doesn't sit quite right.
Yeah.
And I know. Go on, sorry, Ash.
I was going to say, it reminds me of a case I had, a UFO case up here in Greater Manchester, and the lady had stood in the bedroom window, saw this light seemingly coming down, and had gone out to then try and find where it had landed, and then saw this object in the woods back from the road. So we went to meet her, interview her, took us to the bedroom we were stood where she was stood so we could see exactly where she was looking. And we'd ask the questions like, do you have an interest in UFOs, aliens, anything like all these sort of background questions? And she said no to it. Then but we were in her bedroom, and I saw at least two different books. One was actually on her bedside table. One was about alien abduction, and there was another UFO book in her bedroom. So like, okay, so you have lied to me. Like, why you said you don't have an interest in it, but yeah, you got at least two books. One that you're currently reading about aliens. It's like not saying that she didn't see that, but maybe she's always leaving that out to make it sound more genuine, or whether it's just one of them. But that sort of thing has to kind of play a part in the investigation now, because
absolutely, yeah.
I spotted this detail that she's not given to me, that she has not been totally truthful about. So now it's like, so could throw the whole story into dispute, or got to look at the other reason why she didn't say that or answer differently to what she kind of should have done.
She might have thought it would look suspicious, or she could have had the experience and then got the books out to sort of try and figure out what she saw. There's that aspect too, and none of us act naturally when these things happen. I always try and like give as much like leeway, as many passes as possible. But again, it's like extraordinary evidence, extraordinary claims, extraordinary evidence, etc. We are dealing with genres where 99.9% probability should say that most of what we are told is not either true or is misinterpreted. And that tiny percentile is actual real stuff that's happened. It's not been mistaken or not been made up, because these are extraordinary things. Like one of the things that stood out to me when I went to the United States and was doing conferences there is every state had its own Bigfoot group that had a footprint, like a track. I was like, that's a bit weird. I mean, this is supposed to be like a real, like, okay, maybe Washington's got a few tracks, but like Idaho's got tracks? Come on. It's like farmland, all of it's farmland. Something like that anyway. It was just, and it was not to say there's nothing in Idaho, but it was just so many of them. It was the same setup every time, and there was costs of the tracks, and they were for sale. And I'm not saying it's not genuine. It just statistically seemed impossible. So when we're talking to these people, we have to, and I always say to them, and none of the questions I'm asking you is a reflection on you. I ask the same questions to everybody, and I'm not trying to catch you out or anything. I just want to find out about it, and then we'll just chat. And mostly, I'll try to chat to them about anything but the experience, and then bring it in now and again, just chatter, and that makes people more relaxed, basically. And yeah, I think it generally works. And once or twice, I have been lied to, like really brilliantly, and I have believed this person 100%. And then later found out it was a lie. And I'm like, well, they're a really good liar. I'm not ashamed. Don't feel foolish for believing them. I just gave them the trust. And we're all looking for the same thing after all. It all seemed really legit. What's the issue? Now I know, basically. But still, you've got to have extraordinary claims. And sometimes we want to see things too easily. So if something's slightly moving in the background, or there's a tiny bit of shadow, or let's say it's a Bigfoot thing, it's a wobbly, dark shape off in the forest walking along that looks kind of big, that's just not any evidence at all. I remember listening to Jeff Meldrum, the Bigfoot researcher, anthropologist who just died. And he's amazing, rest in peace. And he was giving this talk and showing the paddy footage. He had the original film from the widow of Bellison, and he showed it to us, and he talked about the gait, the posture, the size, the musculature, the movement, all that stuff. And he said, this is the best evidence we have of film evidence, and this is still hotly disputed. Any evidence than this is no evidence at all. Anything less than this is no evidence at all. And I was like, that's a really good point. It's got to be something absolutely extraordinary. And even then, it's hotly debated. We can't be showing like little red circles and glimmers. And I think I might have heard a voice there in the background. If you really strain, you can hear somebody say, or whatever. I don't know, or somebody's coffee cup turning. And I have heard like things like EVPs, really good ones. A good friend of ours, Ed, Francis, he had a great EVP and a colleague. They were in Gloucester, and it was funny. It was actually a funny EVP because they must have been in some old pub where prostitutes used to hang out, and in a very strong West Country accent, Gloucester accent, I can't really do. He's like, "Are you or are you not a lady of the night?" Like that, and he must have asked too many times, and the voice was like, "No." She sounded pissed, like really pissed, like stop fucking asking. I'm not prostitute. I thought that's hilarious. It's definitely an EVP, assuming nobody else was there, and I do trust him. And yeah, you clearly asked that ghost too many times if her services were available, and she's just not in the business. Chaps, leave her alone.
It's interesting. Now, just go back to where you said about the small details in people's experiences. Now, we interviewed someone. It was a nightmare to get hold of him. We had a nightmare trying to get in touch with him. And long story short, he had this completely insane UFO alien experience, and made Skinwalker Ranch look like a kid's theme park, genuinely. So we spoke to John Edmonds at Stardust Ranch, and he was explaining to us about men in black that turned up at his house, but they weren't the typical men in black. The detail he gave were that they were the regular police officers, but with black tape over their numbers and over their license plates. Right, so rather than it being this classic Men in Black type event that everybody knows that these guys turn up and they tell you not to talk about anything, it was like the regular police turning up, but just with their name badges. And it was just little details like that. And the story is completely bananas. I don't know if you know the story of Stardust Ranch,
No,
but
I don't know it. Yeah.
it's mental. He claims to have killed 19 grey aliens with a samurai sword. He's got physical evidence of it. He's got DNA proof, DNA evidence. All the story's insane. Unfortunately, shortly after, we were one of the last people to interview him before he died, and Ghost Adventures have been there and done a program about poltergeists in his house and portals, but it was that reminded when you said about the details of like the porch light being off. It was that little detail that he'd remembered and like come across, and it's like that just seems so absurd.
Yeah.
But why would you make up something as weird as that?
Doesn't seem like something you would make up if you were trying to convince people.
And he was like, I don't even care if nobody believes me. He goes, I couldn't give a shit, basically. He was not on the internet. He didn't, we had to ring a landline in his office in America, and we were trying to do on Zoom and Teams, and we ended up on, I can't remember,
Skype.
Skype. And it was the most insane interview we've ever done. And that was right at the start of our sort of podcast journey. But
We
it's
talk about
those,
mental health. Did you believe that these things happened to him, or do you believe that this is a person who's be having almost non-stop episodes, essentially for a long period of time?
I believe that he believed something has happened.
Yeah,
I mean, the nature of the detail of the accounts that he gave were phenomenal.
yeah,
The fact that some of the things that he said had happened. So he was trying to even explain it in one sentence is crazy. But basically, they were trying to abduct his wife on a nightly basis. See, trying to take him, these aliens. So in the end, he chained her to the bed, which in itself sounds bizarre. He was trying to shoot at the aliens, but they had a pattern of like disapparating and reappearing elsewhere in set patterns. So he said he got to know these patterns, and he had to use a sword because they couldn't predict him using the sword. So he knew where they were going to appear. So he couldn't shoot them, but he had to use it. When I'm talking about it, it sounds fucking mental.
no, but I mean,
I believe
when you're face to face. Yeah,
he had something happen to him. I've no doubt. I don't know what your take is, Ash, because
It's like,
yeah.
because they both, him and his wife are both like respected. Was she a doctor?
they were
or
FBI. No, they're
was
both
she-
ex-FBI.
They're both quite like well known in the community, quite high up, respectable jobs. And this was going on for like 20 years. It's like since they moved to this ranch, it started happening in Arizona. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
We come off and we're like we're like looking at each other like what the hell did we just listen to? But we're saying that even if 1% of that was true, even just 1% of what he told us was true, the most insane conversation I've ever had in my life. He got
Were they
DNA
rural and
evidence.
isolated, or
Not that rural. It was an isolated community, but there was ranches around. He bought the ranch as a horse sanctuary, so they were taking in retired horses.
Yeah.
And I can't. He moved into the ranch on the first day, and some guy came across with long hair, like hippie looking, and he said, "Oh, what are you doing on my ranch? I've just bought the ranch." And he said, "I work here." And the first thing John said to him was like, "I'm really sorry, but you don't work here anymore. I bought the ranch today." And he goes, "What do you do?" And he goes, "I'm the guy that kills the monsters." This is like within hours of, and they're just like, and that's how this whole story. You can imagine where it goes, and we're like,
there's a good movie here somewhere. But I mean, that's a great opening line. It's a great opening line.
It's insane.
The thing is, you see, when something's as insane as that, we find it, and you see, I'm chuckling a little bit, but we find it hard to believe it. We can almost ridicule it. But in a lesser way, many of the things that we deal with and we're told about are just as insane. They're just not as sort of fast moving. And it's quite possible they was both having experiences that were real and coming apart at the seams at the same time due to the experiences. It's very possible. But obviously, to an outsider, it does look like he's completely mad. I mean, the big tell was I had to chain her to the bed to stop them taking her. That was a big tell. I'm sorry. No, I was just gonna say that. But then, who knows? Who knows? I'm sure if something like that was happening, anything you were trying to do to stop it would kind of look insane to somebody from the outside.
The worst bit was, or the best bit, was he killed one of these grey aliens. he FedExed it to a scientist, part of it, with this flesh. They'd done a DNA test,
Yeah.
came back with the DNA results and the report that it was like this hybrid biological thing.
Yeah.
And the scientist that done the tests died in mysterious circumstances shortly afterwards. All verifiable. We checked that out afterwards. And it's just like, oh my God, it's like it is
What
weird
about the
things
test?
happen. Yeah.
Is the test available still?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a university. It's like a university lab, and it's on the university's website, I believe.
Oh,
The
great.
actual results.
Oh, and that's the thing. It was like,
Oh, it's still there.
yeah, and it's
Amazing.
like
It is.
it's believable. Then there's bits that are completely unbelievable. We were recording on Skype, and during lockdown, I'd bought this nice brand spanking new iMac thing. We're on Skype. My iMac shut down, completely shut down, restarted. I had to log back into Skype and everything. I came back onto the call, and I'm like, really sorry about that. And Ash and John were like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, the computer just all turned off. And they go, you've just been there the whole time.
Really?
I was
You
just
didn't log back in at all?
I didn't even disappear from their screen. And it's just, it was just,
No way.
it was, can't even explain how weird.
But you know what? I think this is important actually, because then I'll pick myself up on my own reaction, because essentially we all have a limit of faith. Well, I'll believe to this point and no further, right? Past that point, I won't believe. So I got told off actually by rightly so, when I used to say, you have to remember when you're telling normies Bigfoot and Nessie, all they're hearing is fairies and mermaids, fairies and mermaids. And then somebody contacted me and said, what's wrong with believing in fairies and mermaids? I said, so I made that my point of, as far as my faith would stretch. Then the people who believe in fairies and mermaids were like, hang on a second. Why don't you believe in fairies and mermaids? Why is that the ridiculous point? And it taught me a lesson, really. Essentially, we all have this preferential sort of faith in a way, and that maybe that extends to what we're either interested in or willing to accept. Like sitting at home when he was a teenager, reading about Nessie and Bigfoot, irritated by the poltergeist things happening in the house, but not at all interested. Like I'm not. My faith doesn't say. I think I want to find a Loch Ness monster. You just bugger off, And it's interesting.
It's hard sort of talking about the believable stories and things like that. I had my own experience about 18 months ago that I'd sat on for a while, because it happened in my own basement below me, like 2 floors below me. And even though there's other people there, we had it on video. Long story short, we were in my basement and I felt someone push me. I felt a hand move me out of the way. And so obviously I reacted to it. And the guys I was with obviously spun around, cameras on. I was like, something's just physically moved me, like pushed me out of the way. And on the back of my hoodie was a handprint of where I'd just been touched. So we got the pictures, we got the video of it. But the handprint is where it gets even more bizarre. Is if you typically it's like 3 long fingers with like bulbous tips on my back. So it's like that's a typical stereotypical alien hand. Like if you Google grey alien hand, that's what comes up, is what the picture on that we've got on my back is. And I was like, okay, so I'm a guy that's a paranormal investigator who's mainly into UFOs and aliens, that sort of stuff. If someone's going to tell me this story, I'm like, why would it happen? I would not expect anyone to believe that this guy's got an interest in paranormal, in investigating paranormal, in UFOs and aliens, has been touched by a ghost, alien, whatever the hell is in the basement creature. It's like, no, how is anyone going to believe that? Like, obviously, look, Kevin believes it or not, but it's like, had the video evidence, or people were there, photos of the handprint took straight away. It's like, it's just it's too much. In my own experience that I know happened, I'm like, I don't know if I want to talk about it, because is it too much? It seems too good of an experience, even though I had the other evidence to kind of back it up a little bit. So I get when like people telling stories, I'm like, say if someone told me that story, I'd be like, yeah, come on, like you're an alien guy and you got touched by an alien in your basement. None of it makes sense. So literally for months, I was like, I still can't make sense of it. Like, and then it makes me start thinking. When we talked about earlier on about kind of the cultures and relating it to things that you know, there's that kind of like in the UFO world where people say like back in the like late 1900s, 19th century, like it was the airships was like what was being seen, some airships, and the kind of the shape of UFOs has changed, kind of as our technology increased, the shape of UFOs has kind of changed, to kind of keep ahead of us. It's kind of like the next step. So much like Tic Tac more recently, and now we then got our own sort of planes that similar to Tic Tac type shapes and stuff like that. So it's kind of like developed. So I'm thinking, has that then whatever that was in the basement, whatever type of monster, ghost, cryptid, alien, phenomena, whatever the phenomena is that's in the basement, maybe it presented itself as an alien hand because that's what my interest was. So has if it was someone else, it might have just done a normal human hand or something else, or goblin hand, something like that. If that person was into investigating goblins, has it chosen that to present itself in that way? Because I would relate to it more. That's the only kind of
You can
thing
see
I can
that's
kind of.
exactly what I'm thinking, right? I'm thinking, well, surely as humans, when we try to communicate with somebody, we speak in terms that we think they'll understand, don't we? And maybe that's the first thing that popped into my head as soon as you said it. I was like, oh, okay.
It's
Ash
like,
likes aliens.
it's like that's. I
So
literally spent months thinking about it, like, do I talk about
yeah,
it? Do I tell people? I don't know. I did because basically because it's like in my house, it's literally in my own basement as well. It's like, is there something down there? Like, do I want to know what's down there? Do I want to keep pushing this button? I don't know. Like, it's because we had lots of stuff happen. Greg's had stuff happen down there. The girls been down there, have had stuff happen. All sort of
It's
captured,
a crazy place.
and it's like kind of escalated to physical, where I've physically been touched by whatever that is down there. So now, like, do I want to keep pushing it to it might escalate? I don't know. It's just a weird, yeah, mad
I mean, I
thing.
wonder if it's and this is from somebody that's not totally in the know, really, but just reaching. I wonder if essentially, if what you're doing in the investigation is you're breaching something, so you're it's not that there's something there, but you're opening up the void and you're saying, hey, here we are in this place in the house I moved into, which is now coincidentally like a paranormal portal, right? But really you're like, hey, is anybody down here? You've just opened up a big gate, perhaps. I don't know how it works personally. And again, belief structures vary all over the world. Mine would interpret that very differently, but it wouldn't interpret it as not happening. I would just ascribe a different identity to it, I suppose. Maybe because of that, I would have had a different shaped hand.
Mm.
You know, yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
mad. On that kind of, we mentioned sort of portals a couple of times with British Bigfoot. Obviously, a lot of people say we're not big enough. There's not enough
Yeah.
land, not compared to like American Pacific Northwest places like that. And one of the kind of theories people have with these portals or interdimensional aspects to British Bigfoot. What's kind of your take on? Is there British Bigfoot in your experience, or what could explain kind of that side of
Well,
things?
no, I am somebody that literally went looking for it for years and years in hot spots where it's said to have been, and I looked into the land as well. The land is definitely available. There's definitely a lot of land in the UK where there's nobody there, and there's a lot of wildlife and things to feed upon, where you'd never be spotted. I mean, just look at a lot of Scotland. There's just no one around at all. You went there recently. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. There is nobody. So, like Scotland, 1.9% of the land is urban sprawl. That's motorways and rural settlements as well. England, it's like 10.4%. Wales, 4.6 or 7. I can't remember exactly. And Northern Ireland again about, well, I can't remember. It's about 1.8. The figures might be slightly off, but they're in those ballparks basically. So the estimated uh, urban sprawl for the whole country was 10.6%. That was done by a government study in 2012. And basically, that was all the motorways, all the roads, all the villages, everything. 10.6% of the whole country covered by urban sprawl. 30 million sheep, It's about the same number of rabbits or even more. Maybe Mixie's like knocked them down a bit now, and all kinds of things. And I started thinking to myself, well, look, the big cats are definitely here. I know too many people have seen them. If clearly most of the population's been here since the Dangerous Wild Animals Act in the 70s, when people didn't have a plan, they let them go, and some of them are bred and carried on, spread out. They seem to be here, and we're not seeing them most of the time, actually. They're a big predator. So it's possible, but there's a caveat. I don't think they are here, the Bigfoot. And I really looked into it, and I'm not saying I disbelieve anybody who told me about their sighting, because some people they were really just so genuine. I definitely believe them. But evidentially, I can't find anything, not footprints or anything. And I know there's been a few footprints in the paper. They've all been rubbish, every single one of them. It's been manufactured or mistaken from what I can perceive by what they look like. I've looked every single place. That's not to say I'm right. I just don't believe they are. And I believe those woodwoes, not green men, but these woodwoes, hairy, man-like creatures that were represented in European heraldry in the late Middle Ages, which you find on cathedrals and tapestries and noble arms and all that stuff. Even they, I believe, are again, there's sort of a mental library sort of redrawing of something people were told about but was already rare or extinct at that point. And I believe that they are still in the world in some places. The Caucasus maybe in small numbers in other places around the world. But I don't think they're here and haven't been for a long time. And what I had to, unfortunately, reconcile myself with is that there's all these sightings or all these tales up until like the late Middle Ages, at least in representation. So you have this representation, and I went looking everywhere for it, and what I concluded was essentially this is something now that exists in our culture because it's been reimagined. So when we talked about this colonial transplants earlier, like the duende going from Spain and Portugal to the Americas and the Philippines, Bigfoot, in my opinion, as well as the Dogman and the Pukwudgie and many other things, were transplanted from Northern European cultures, and Western European cultures, to North America, Canada, and the USA by our ancestors who went there. Now, America is a very sort of strong individualistic country these days, so we don't think of them as being our children in that sense, culturally speaking, but they are. And they've also, like the Dogman, is nothing more than a werewolf, fully in representation. And Bigfoot is really not too different to a woodwose in the way that it looks. And even a Pukwudgie is like a hobgoblin or a troll or something, right? You've got many things like that. That's not to say they don't exist in that country, but these things are they're folkloric in nature. Could they be here in Britain right now? I just don't think so. I hope they are, but I don't think so.
Perfect. Well, Andy, it's been fascinating chat. Really enjoyed. The time has flown by. Thanks very much for joining us today. Just want to remind our viewers your work, where you can find your books, your TV work, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, sure. If you just go to Facebook, Bisob, you can find my stuff there. Or in fact, if you go to Linktree, I'll give you guys the link. My books are there. So it is Beasts of Britain, Beasts of the World, Volume 1, Hairy Humanoids. Volume 2 is coming out maybe at the end of this year, Water Monsters. And I've got kids' books now as well called A Monster Kid's Guide. I've got my first two I've released, and one's called Yeti, A Monster Kid's Guide, and one's called Nessie, A Monster Kid's Guide. And they're literally passport-size guides that you could actually take around to those places with you, or look online if you want, and just search for the monsters. They've got the history, the sightings, the hoaxes, what equipment you'll need, and also little notes in the back. So whether you're like a kid or you're like a big kid like me, it's lots of fun.
Thanks for listening to Pursuit of the Paranormal with Ash Ellis. Title music created by Steve Yarwood and Ambi Infinity. If you like the show, please follow us on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, X, and Instagram. And if you really like the show, please rate and review the show wherever you are listening. It really does help. See you next time, and until then, stay weird.